Welcome back to another episode of the Freedom Talks podcast, everybody. This is your host, Joe Ogden. And this week, we've got another interview with a Freedom Therapist. This week, our guest is Spencer, who is a therapist out in Grafton. Spencer, welcome.
Thanks a lot, Joe. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I've had to reschedule on Spencer a couple times, so thanks to him for being flexible and finally finding something in the schedule.
Yeah, no worries.
We were just talking before we started recording. I feel like I've been here for 3 years now, and Spencer much longer than I have. But I feel like as a company, this is the busiest we've been to start a new year in a while. I mean, I feel like we're just
I would agree with that. We usually have a bit of a February lull, and it hasn't been. So it's very busy,
which is good for business, but sometimes
Excellent.
bad for us. We don't have a chance to breathe or do anything.
Yeah, true. So I didn't mind having you reschedule on me. It gave me some paperwork time.
I need the same too. Spencer, tell us a little bit, just kind of give us a little background on just kind of your education route, why you became a physical therapist, and then we'll go on from there.
You know, a lot of therapists that I've talked to have always said it was because, playing sports, they had an injury or something like that. I actually, I played sports all through high school and luckily never had any injuries, never had to seek any help out. I actually wanted to be an artist and was going to go to art school. But I was also really good in science and everything like that, and realized I didn't want to be a struggling artist. So one day at my high school, we had like a college fair, and my buddy told me he was going to do physical therapy. And I said, "What's that?" And he didn't quite know, but it sounded cool. And so I applied to one of the PT schools in Buffalo, New York. That's where I'm from, and somehow got in and loved it right off the bat. So yeah, that it's not the best story, but I lucked into it.
And do you have your doctorate or you have your master's?
I only have my master's. The doctorate didn't exist at that point. So I graduated high school in 1995, and at that time you could still get your bachelor's in physical therapy. And the school that I went to was similar to like Marquette or Concordia here, where they have like the program that, where you get in kind of as a freshman and go all the way through. So I have my bachelor's degree in physical therapy and my master's degree in physical therapy. And I think I graduated, it was an accelerated track, and I graduated in 2000. And I believe that year it was when the DPT, we started hearing about schools starting to have it. And I was burnt out from PT school and taking the boards. I didn't want to go back.
So. Was that an option for your class or people around your age to, hey, come back, finish up a couple of credits, and you have your
my school didn't have it yet.
Okay.
They didn't have it until several years later. So there was a few kids that were going to University of St. Augustine to get that done. Okay. But that sounded terrible to me at the time.
So you have an undergraduate in physical therapy and then a master's? Because I feel like Scott here, he just has his bachelor's. Mike just has his bachelor's. And as Scott always says, like, physical therapy is physical therapy. What did they add in the master's program?
More of the research component.
Okay.
So we had to do a lot of we had to do like capstone projects and stuff like that. So I think it was like a 250-page research project on sports injuries, or so that was probably the big focus of the master's, because we started right off the go freshman year doing PT coursework.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So they don't really. I feel like that'd be such a better.
Oh, it was awesome.
Because you're right into it right away.
Yeah, and for sure, and knowing that that's what you wanted to do, and you weren't kind of wasting your time doing anything else.
Right. So you're originally from Buffalo, and then you did travel PT for a while too, didn't you?
Yeah, so I got a job. I got really lucky. I did an internship at a children's hospital in Buffalo during PT school, and ended up loving it. Thought I always wanted to do orthopedics, but then fell in love with pediatrics. And when I graduated, you needed at least 2 years in pediatrics to get that job. But again, I lucked into it. Like, having done an internship there, I printed out one resume, handed that in, and they had a therapist who resigned the day before, and they said, "You're hired." So I lucked out. I did pediatrics for 3 years, worked with a lot of kids with developmental disabilities, and loved that so much. And as a young 20-something-year-old guy, like, that was probably the best thing that I could have ever experienced. And then I also got to work with kids with sports injuries as well. And then decided I wanted to see the country, and I hooked up with a travel PT company, and I did that for a number of years. So yeah,
Wasn't
that
that
was cool.
I feel like now, like kids my age, because I've been out of school 3 years now, that's kind of the thing to do, be a travel PT. And my wife's a nurse, and it's kind of the same thing for kids our age. Was that as popular when you did it too?
Yeah, probably. Although out of all my classmates, I'm probably one of the few that I know that did travel PT. I might be wrong on that. I lost touch with a bunch of people,
Yeah.
because we didn't quite have social media to the degree that it is today. But yeah, I mean, I met a lot of travelers along the way. Obviously, it was awesome. I was glad I didn't do it right out of school, because I ended up in a few clinics where I was the only PT, no aid and no reception. So I was doing it all, and luckily had a few years of experience to back me up. But it was a great way to see the country, to learn different treatment methods all over the country. And I'm a big downhill skier, and so I worked my travel therapy out so that every winter I was in the mountains. So I would take any PT job available, and so I was doing nursing home work and hospital acute care and outpatient work, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
So you pretty much have treated in basically every setting.
Yeah, just about every setting. Yeah,
Home health? Did you do home health?
never home health. Never wanted to do home health.
I did that for one of my observations to get into PT school, and I have blessings to anybody that does it because it was not for me.
Yeah, nor me. Definitely not.
So how did you end up in Wisconsin then? Is your wife from Wisconsin?
My wife is from Wisconsin, so
Okay.
I met her working. It's called the International Center for Spinal Cord Injury. I came in as a traveler, and I was there for 6 months to start with, and she was a full-time PT there.
Oh, your wife is a PT too?
Yeah, she's a PT as
Oh, I
well.
didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so and that's in Baltimore, and that's associated with like Johns Hopkins.
Okay.
And it was a new program at the time, and it was amazing. It was like one of the head docs that used to work with Christopher Reeve kind of started the program out, and we were working like hand in hand with physiatrists and other medical doctors and researchers that were researching spinal cord injury. And the staff was very young. Everybody ranged from mid 20s to mid 30s, and it was a great time. But yeah, my wife sat next to me in the office, so that's how we met.
Got it. Okay. And then
Yeah.
did you guys ultimately decide to come back to the Milwaukee area and then you started at Freedom, or how'd you get started at Freedom?
Well, yeah. So I'll try to keep it short, but I was getting ready to be done traveling. I wanted to move back to New York, and she convinced me. She thought traveling sounded cool, so I traveled more with her. And then we took some permanent jobs in different areas of the country, and ultimately settled back in Baltimore. And once we got married and started having kids, um, so my son was 5 months old when we found out we were having twins, and we decided we needed to leave Baltimore and be near family. So I lobbied for New York, but she won that discussion with Wisconsin. So
Smart, smart.
yeah, yeah. So she actually, I think, found Freedom first and interviewed with them. And she's a pelvic floor specialist, and that's pretty much all she treats is pelvic
Okay.
floor. And they needed a pelvic floor specialist, but at that time they kind of wanted her to do maybe 20% pelvic floor and the rest orthopedic. And she said, no, this isn't for me, but my husband would be a good fit. And so then I came in and interviewed.
And then have you been in Grafton since you started?
Yep. Yeah, I live in Cedarburg, so
Okay.
I think at the time Brookfield needed a therapist, and Grafton, so I chose Grafton.
What's your wife do now? Or
She owns her own business.
oh, okay.
So yeah, she's in Mequon and
Okay.
does pelvic floor.
Pelvic floor. So you
Yeah,
definitely see things from all points of view. I mean, work for a private practice, your wife owns a private practice,
yeah, absolutely.
all the ins and outs of how it works.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. Once she started up her practice, it gave me a lot more respect for any business owner. It's
It's
tough.
it's so hard
Yeah,
for
yeah,
anyone, I think.
absolutely.
What would you say, because it sounds like you both traveled as well and
Hmm.
eventually, settled and figured out, okay, this is what I want to do. Kids obviously changes that. What would you say as a travel therapist was your biggest takeaway or the biggest like learning moment for you, especially as a younger therapist too?
Just being adaptable, really, because I was going into situations that they needed you because they didn't have anybody, right? So then you were coming into a full schedule day one, and and everybody does everything differently, and obviously different work environments, different types of physical therapy. So um, it made you be as adaptable as possible. So that was probably the biggest thing is adaptability.
I would agree. I mean, that's what
Yeah,
I did for my first job as a new grad, and that was my first PT job, but it was more traveling locally, and it was just not for me. I think you have to have. I agree with what you said earlier. I think you have to have a basic PT knowledge in a sense of like just how to work and how to problem solve on your own first with a job before just jumping
right.
right in.
Absolutely. But it also, I think, showed me what I really like. I still love working with kids, but I started, doing more orthopedic, like true, like adult orthopedic stuff, and really kind of fell in love with that. And so as the years went by, I started taking more and more orthopedic jobs, and then that turned into different places where we lived in Hawaii, which was a permanent job, and Colorado, and then back to Baltimore. And I was a clinic supervisor in Baltimore for a while, and but always orthopedics, and absolutely fell in love with that. And my curiosity with orthopedics just grew leaps and bounds. And because again, like being in different regions of the country and seeing different things being, to a point, different things being done. But yeah, it just really kind of stimulated something there.
Yeah. When that's a great lead point to what I really selfishly why I wanted to talk to you because we really haven't had a chance to, really talk about treatment and what we like to do with one another. Looking through your bio on the website and just kind of hearing some of the things you're doing, you seem to be really high on just like functional treatment with people with especially with a lot of your certifications,
Sure.
especially with your latest certification that you just finished. Tell us a little bit about what you just finished up in the last year.
Yeah, so that was a functional medicine certification. I've always been interested in, nutrition and overall the holistic nature of health, and that just seemed like the best next option was to further my knowledge with that and get certified in that. So that was about 14 months of a course going through that, which was not always easy, especially with three young kids. And then a big certification test at the end. But essentially, what it is just looking at, what is the driving force on illness or disease, and trying to find the cause versus just symptom management. So with that certification, I learned how to interpret a lot of different lab tests and things like that. There was a huge nutritional focus with it, and just overall best practices to keeping people healthy. And it's great for PT. I was listening to one of your other podcasts talking about nutrition and hydration and all of that kind of stuff. And that the same thing, I talk to my patients all the time about things that might be lacking um, in their daily routine, whether that's nutrition or sleep or anything like that affects the whole system. And especially people when you're dealing with chronic pain or healing from any injury, if we can optimize that healing component, through a more holistic sense, not just the physical. I think that that's incredibly important.
I just finished a nutrition certification because I agree with you 100%. In PT school, they teach us, treat the whole body. If someone comes
Right.
with back pain, look above and below the joint. But then as I'm treating people, I'm like, we're still missing something. And
Yeah.
then I looked at the nutritional component, looked around at, okay, what are some different things to look at? So I even like backed it out even broader. I feel like that's something we don't touch upon that much is, okay, you come to physical therapy 2 or 3 times a week for 45 minutes. In the big picture, it's really not that much time. What
Hmm.
else can we be implementing to try and promote holistic healing of your body between sleep, nutrition, hydration, uh,
Absolutely.
all that stuff? I mean, I think it's so important, and the more I learn about it, the more I think it's so crucial with people.
Hugely crucial. And I think we're in a unique position being here at Freedom with given the 45-minute treatment slots that we have, where we have that person on the table, and we get to have those conversations. Whereas the conventional medical system, and this is nothing against doctors, because doctors are unfortunately beholden to the time slots that they
Yeah.
have, but they don't get as much time. Like if we're seeing somebody 2 to 3 times a week for 45-minute sessions, we have a really good chance to listen to
Mhm.
what they're saying, and do a little bit more detective work, and that way we can say, well, like, this could be something to think about. Why don't you talk about it with your doctor or whatever? And I think having that extra knowledge, because like you said, they don't teach you that in PT school. They don't teach it a lot in medical school either, especially the nutritional piece. And yeah, I felt it was really important to add to the patient experience with that.
Did your certification go through like specific nutrition advice or recommendations?
Yeah, quite a bit. Like, obviously, various. It's going to talk about macronutrients, but a lot on micronutrients,
Yeah.
and as far as vitamin and mineral deficiencies and things like that. It was really big on gut issues.
Yeah.
Whether that be gut dysbiosis or SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. um, you know, really looking at that, because there's so much more research these days on how the gut functions and how that affects our immune systems and things like that.
The deep
Um,
rabbit hole to get down once you start looking at
oh
it.
goodness, such a rabbit hole. Yeah. So, but it's been enlightening for sure.
What would you say, especially, now that you pass the test and have the certification and the knowledge, what would you say is the role that we play as physical therapists when it comes to the nutrition side of things or sleep? I mean, all basically the non-physical part of physical therapy.
I think just as educators, truly, that unfortunately, I think sometimes our hands are tied with what we can and can't do. I did look up prior to taking this certification, like, what's in our practice act, and in fact, nutrition is in our practice act, because
That's pretty
it does
dang.
affects healing, right? So, um, but at this point in time, like, we're not billing for nutritional consults. We can't do that part of it. So, so right now, just educating, as people are on the table.
That's what I looked into a lot too, because I was like, I don't want to. I'm the first therapist to admit I do not like stepping on anyone's toes. I have no problem
Yeah.
referring to anybody. If somebody else's skills can help a patient, I have no problem referring out. Wisconsin makes it really nice because we don't really have any barriers when it comes to the line between dietitian and nutritionist. Basically,
Right.
uh, was it Delaware that we can't even say a word about it? I think Delaware is one of the most strict.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
It's dietitian only, and anything where other states is like, whatever, do
Yeah.
what you want, which
Yeah.
is,
And that's unfortunate, isn't it?
I think, is it New York too that's trying to get rid of dry needling for therapists?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't, I feel like I have such limited time that I focus on where I am. So,
I
but
think it's
that's
New York.
possible.
New York and another state, like they're trying to take dry needling away from therapists, or it's on the docket, I should say,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
It's interesting. There's always been organizations that have been trying to take things away from therapists, from PTs, which is really unfortunate. But when I think about that, I think that's the cool thing about our profession, isn't it? Like, I feel like we get taught so much about everything. We truly are very holistic medical people. And I think most therapists have a real inquisitiveness, I guess, about everything medical. And so we're great educators with all that stuff. And it's unfortunate that other organizations feel threatened by that.
Now that you say it, it really just sparked my thought on this, especially in my experience at Freedom. I just feel like we are not a threatening organization at all. Maybe I'm wrong,
No.
maybe I'm naive saying that, but so many in this, I guess, goes to the top of the political spectrum as well. There's politics involved in anything, but I feel like we see people in what you said earlier. We see people for 45 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week. That's a lot of time spending with patients.
Right.
That we're basically also kind of the triage of healthcare, essentially. Of okay,
Yeah.
I think you need to go see so and so because this is going on. When I send you, I'm going to call them and say, hey, Spencer's coming in. They're having this issue. This is what I think's going on. Can you look at it further? Yeah, perfect. We'll take care of it. No problem. But I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes it's looked at from that, threatening perspective, which just kind of
Yeah.
sours the relationship, I guess, too.
It does, and obviously that's just egos coming into play, I think,
Yeah.
but
It's in the PT as a whole, I think.
yeah, and I think we play nice as well, like you said, you're not going to step on anyone's toes. So we're always going to be tactful and refer out, make suggestions and say, it'd be worth talking with a nutritionist or a dietitian, or talk to your doctor about running these tests because it could be helpful. So yeah.
With your latest certification too, do you have the ability to run any tests?
That I'm not sure of yet, just because, again, working here, we're not going to bill out, anything for what I potentially could do.
Yeah.
um I don't know if it's in our practice act
Yeah.
to order tests. I can interpret them, but I don't know if I can have order them myself.
Okay.
So in that case, that again, I'm just keeping safe and letting patients know that this could be a good test. Here's information on it. Talk to your doctor about it.
Okay. Where did you go for it?
It was online. It was through the ADAPT program, which is out of California. It's through
Okay.
the Kresser Institute.
Okay. And I was looking at your other certifications too, which basically are all around just good optimizing functional movement. The FMS, SFMA. I haven't heard of that SFG, but I'm sure you can tell us more about it.
So, again, coming out of the 90s, early 2000s, in PT school, everything was very separated. Like we were still doing very straight, plain, linear, basic exercises. And I remember reading through Men's Health back then, and every exercise program was a bodybuilding style of exercise program. And over the course of years, it started to be like, it doesn't quite make sense. I don't think the body works in isolation like that. And so the first course that really opened my eyes up were like the FMS and the SFMA courses, which is the functional movement systems. And taught by primarily like Gray Cook and a bunch of other guys that do incredible work, kind of linking the body together. And that was eye opening. That gave me some tools to kind of do a little bit better movement analysis initially. Unfortunately, I don't do as much of that anymore. I think I think you get tools to work with for a period of time, and then the longer you do it, you start to go off of that and develop your own style. And but that's always been kind of the foundation, and it's always led me into more things that fascinate me with human movement and the linkage of systems, and not just orthopedically, the linkage of the visceral system and how that plays a role, and the nervous system and the endocrine, so all of that together, how it all works. And so but I also the optimization of things. And so that the SFG and the SFB that I was certified in, that's through the organization called Strong First. And Pavel Tatsulin, who's a Russian strength and conditioning specialist, who's kind of famous for training American elite special forces guys. And he has a really unique way of disseminating really complicated information and making it easy to understand. And so the SFG has to do with kettlebell, being a kettlebell instructor. The SFB is a body weight instructor. But it was just simplification of how to get strong and tension through your body as which comes into play with sports, and linkage of the spine to the extremities, and best practices for strength and conditioning, where you're not doing a 3-hour session at the gym. Like, what's the minimal effective dose that you can do to get strong, and strong both in your muscles as well as your cardiovascular system, all of that. So those courses I found really fascinating. They're brutal. they were because you have to walk the talk, so they make all their trainers go through a 2 to 3 day super rigorous. I mean, you're exercising 10 hours a day for 2 to 3 days, and you're just a puddle afterwards. But it was fun.
When did you take those?
I took my first one maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
And I mean, basically, how you've been talking since we've talked about your certifications, you've kind of hinted at this, but kind of wrap up and talk about just kind of your treatment style and what you like to do with patients. I know obviously it depends on the patient, but just kind of talk to us a little bit about things you look at, things you think are important, and how you like to go about it.
So I really value the subjective part of the evaluation first and foremost. What the patient is telling me, it speaks volumes. And again, like, lots of times when by the time they come to us, they've been in pain for a while, they've seen a lot of people, and I get a lot of comments that nobody's ever really listened to them before, and they're always grateful for that listening part, which is so important, because it's their story, it's their body. So what they're telling me is my number one priority, first and foremost. I do a lot of hands-on manual stuff, dry needling. That was a game changer, getting certified in that. I wish that would have been. I've been treating since 2000, so this May or June will be 24 years. I wish dry needling would have been around for all those 24 years, because it's a game changer. But lots of hands-on stuff. Usually if somebody's in a lot of pain to start off with, maybe 3/4 of the session is going to be hands-on, whether that's soft tissue, joint work, whatever, followed by that last quarter of the session is generally exercise. I don't use modalities too much anymore. If somebody's in a lot of pain, then maybe hot pack, cold pack, e-stim. But I tend not to use those too much anymore, and favor more hands-on time and more exercise time. And then lots of times it's the exercises are going to be very multi-joint focused, and linking the shoulder to the hip, through the spine, and a lot of, I guess, what you would consider a little more unconventional exercises than what you would see in a typical clinic. Unfortunately, they get a little upset because we don't have pictures of the exercises that I do. We need to get on that maybe, and that's my fault. But yeah, I like doing things that make people move like humans.
Well, what
So
would you say is an example of that?
so I like doing a lot of groundwork, so and I think this is part of my background with pediatrics too, is that I'll take people through developmental progression. So I have them rolling and doing lots of crawling and different things that look like breakdance moves, but it's to help with shoulder stability and things like that. So yeah, just things like that are a little more unconventional.
Now, when you say, just because you brought the example up, like connecting the shoulder to the hip, would you consider that like a bear crawl movement?
Yeah, bear crawls. I use bear crawls more so if somebody's really tight to their posterior chain. Otherwise, I do I guess what I call foot and hand crawl. So knees are off the ground, but their spine is in a neutral position. And oftentimes, when you see somebody do that, it's really hard for them to control. Their spine is all over
All over.
over the place. The pelvis is all over the place. So I'll put a foam roll on their back, and they have to crawl 10 feet without that foam roll falling off. And the first time that they do that, they can maybe take one step
Yeah.
before it falls off, because they don't know how to and I say most people have a hard time controlling that linkage, and your hips are your engine, your shoulders, they're a bit of an engine. Your spine is the transmission at which that energy and that power derived from those joints flow. And if you're sloppy and you can't control the spine well, you're going to leak a lot of energy. And so that activity helps rein that in quite a bit.
No, I agree. I feel like a lot
Yeah,
of people struggle that with something like that in general.
yeah, yeah. It's something I do myself on a regular basis, just to kind of keep it tuned
Yeah.
in.
Spencer, I'm going to assume, especially with three younger kids, that outside of work, you don't just like to look at research articles 24/7.
No, we're a pretty active family. So
Tell
my
us a little bit
kids,
kind of about your hobbies and activities you like to do outside of work.
we're a big outdoors family. So we like to hike and downhill ski, and we do a lot of vacations. We like to take our kids, all over the place, whether it's in the U.S. or other countries. So we did last March. We just went to Ecuador with the kids for
Oh,
three
cool.
weeks, and then we did a Pacific Coast from Seattle to San Diego road trip with the kids. And this upcoming summer, we're going to go do some medical mission work in Africa. And then while we're there, go on a safari with the kids. So travel is a big part. But yeah, just I don't know, just having fun with the kids. That my kids right now, I have twin girls that are 8, and my son is 9.
Wow.
And so it's a
Close and at a
whirlwind.
busy beach.
Yeah, yeah.
Where are you guys going in Africa?
We're starting in Malawi, which is where we're doing the medical portion of the trip, and then we're going to Tanzania and for the safari, and then finishing in Zanzibar, just to relax in the sun a little bit.
One of my professors in PT school, she's a physical therapist. She went back to get her law degree. I think her husband's just a lawyer, but they own a nonprofit in Tanzania for there's a specific kid population there that they basically have a basically a nonprofit hospital.
Oh, cool.
They take students now as a part of your first clinical rotation that they'll take you to
Really
um,
nice.
Tanzania to do it. But they probably go there, I mean, a lot of times during the year to run
Yeah,
a
I
nonprofit hospital.
I've heard amazing things about Tanzania. It's a very diverse country in terms
Yeah.
of topography, and supposed to be just absolutely gorgeous and great people. So and Malawi is, I think, a fairly poor country from what I understand, but it's supposed to have some of the happiest people in the world. So I'm looking forward to that.
I think it's all relative once you start traveling. I mean, you obviously
Oh yeah,
you travel more, so have a better perspective. But I feel like, you know, our definition of happiness in the US, I think just based on capitalism, does
sure,
revolve around money a little bit, just because of that's just how it is. But in
right.
other places, they might be, poor, but they don't value money the way we do.
No, no, and they have each other instead, which is amazing, and that's one of the things that I'm really happy that my kids get to see. You know, just different people and how the rest of the world is and lives and all of that. So that's fun. But yeah, they keep me busy. Those kids.
To the
I'm
twin girls.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So, and I'm their jungle gym too. So, and I'm an older dad. I'm 46. So, I have to keep in shape because they like to beat me up.
The joys, the
Oh
joys.
yeah, definitely.
Spencer, I always like to finish podcasts with one question because I think our personal lives really blend with our professional lives just because we spend so much time with people and interact with people. What motivates you to be a better person or physical therapist?
Oh, it's a good question. I would say right off the bat, my kids are my biggest motivator. I want to be the best role model for them that I can be. You know, yeah, they're my world, and they're constantly watching everything. And I'm a big fan of lead by example. So I put in 110% every day, and hopefully one day they'll do the same. And just being a good person, and seeing them, or what having them see me be a good person. But I love people too, and I want, my goal every day coming in here is to help people. That's why I got into it, really. And um and I think the longer I've been out, the more you realize you don't know. And so with that, I just have this thirst for wanting to know more, and want to help people as best that I can. So that drives me big time.
So Spencer answered this just how every other therapist has at Freedom, which I think also speaks volume to the therapists that we hire here um, at Freedom. So, between Mike, Jeff, Mike, and Scott, I mean, I think they do a really good job bringing in the right people.
They're great.
But I really feel like our therapists here, I mean, our personalities really blend with our professional lives where we're just trying to be good human beings first and foremost and treat people the best that we can and make sure that they're getting the best care possible.
Absolutely. That's the biggest thing that drove me to Freedom. Like when I looked at the website when I was first, interviewing, and I saw all the people listed on the web page, and I read through everybody's bios, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need to be a part of that, because there's some incredible people here.
How long have you been here now? I didn't even ask earlier.
This summer will be 9 years.
And Mike's been there in Grafton the whole time. Mike Ruppel's been there in Grafton.
No, well, Mike had worked here Ruppel had worked here previously before me, and then left, and then I was here for a few years before he came back.
Okay.
Yeah,
Has Ann been there the whole time?
Anne's been here the whole time. Yeah, Anne's been here the whole time, and then Mike for Planky.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
How long has Rachel been there? I haven't had her on a podcast yet, but that's soon. So if you see her,
Good
tell her
question. I feel like maybe 6 years, maybe
Okay.
five or six, maybe.
And something else I wanted to touch on Spencer, because I never got the chance to talk to him about this. When Spencer said he gives 110% in everything that he does, he's not lying. When we did our 5K for Freedom last summer,
Ah,
Spencer shows up and everyone is just kind of talking, mingling, by the building, good morning. We're just kind of hanging out. All of a sudden, the 5K starts and Spencer takes off. And my wife and I are walking with the baby in the stroller. I'm talking to Jeff. And here comes Spencer already around the corner. I feel like we just started. Spencer's hauling it back and finished the 5K and blew everyone out of the water. And he didn't even break a sweat.
well, I'm pretty sure I broke a sweat. Um, For the first half of that race, I had probably a 12-year-old kid in front of me, and I thought, I can't let this 12-year-old kid beat me. So that
That
was
I
my
forgot about that.
motivation.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I think you're right about to cross Green Tree again, and he put his head down and just tried to catch up to you as fast as he could, and then he realized after about maybe 15 seconds
yeah.
he's not going to come anywhere close, and then he slowed down again.
Well, and then that's where experience comes in. I knew not to go guns blazing right away and save it for the second half. But yeah, that was a fun race. I'm looking forward to it again.
Spencer's going to smoke everybody here too.
We'll
Nobody.
see. We'll see. I might go out on top and just be a timer instead.
That'd be smart. That'd be smart.
Yeah.
Spencer, actually, now that we're talking about events, does Grafton have any events coming up?
Yeah, there is a blood drive coming up. I don't. That's Mike Ruppel's
Okay.
deal. He organizes all of that.
Okay.
So it's usually they do it a few times a year. So I know it's coming up maybe March or April.
Okay.
But that I'm sure Molly will have listed, somewhere within our social media. So people should check that out.
So for those listening,
great
I'll
cause.
look and I'll update it on the next podcast when the Grafton blood drive is, but I believe it's coming up soon, relatively soon, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe March, early March.
I'll double check.
But don't hold me to that.
Spencer, thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
It's been really, especially for me. I mean, I really wanted to know more about, especially your latest certification. So selfishly, I think I benefited the most out of all of this. Hopefully, our listeners did too. Any other closing thoughts?
No.
Thank you for coming on, Spencer, and thanks to everybody for listening to another episode of the Freedom Talks podcast. If anybody wants to see Spencer or has any questions for Spencer, he's located in our Grafton location, which is right off Highway 43. It's very easy to get to. Or we have our Fox Point location, Brookfield or Mugwanago. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see everybody in the next episode.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Spencer. We'll talk to you soon.